Okay guys, so today's video is going to be on rebuilding this carburetor here. It's a Tecumseh carburetor. It came off of a 2-stroke snowblower. It's the float type carburetor. There's two different kinds. There's the diaphragm type and then there's the float type. So what we're working on today is the float type. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of walk you guys through on what I know on rebuilding these. So as you can see from the outside, this thing is pretty dirty. It's got some grease on it. On the bottom of the float bowl here we have a little drain valve here, which makes draining the float bowl easy when you go to put it away for the summertime. So anyway, like I said, that's what we're going to be doing in this video. And the tools that you're going to need to do this is a 1/2 inch box wrench or a 1/2 inch open end wrench. You're going to need a TX25 Torx bit, and then once we get inside the carburetor, you'll see how I use this tool right here. This is your Tecumseh carburetor tool. I'll be using that once I get inside the carburetor. So to start, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to remove the bowl nut on the bottom of the carburetor. Okay, now before I take the bowl off, let's leave that right there for now. Before I take the bowl off, you're going to notice that this little bolt here that I took out of the carburetor bowl, or this little nut that I took out of the bowl, it's got a little jet right here, a little hole. Okay, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that's clear. Once I get the carburetor all taken apart, I'll just kind of show you guys how that gets cleaned. You can just run a paper clip through it, piece of wire, anything really, but I'll show you guys how that's done a little bit later on. And I probably should have mentioned in the beginning of this video, this is probably going to be a 2-part video. First half is going to be taking this carburetor apart. I'll show a little bit on how I'm going to clean it, but I won't actually film the cleaning because that's boring. All I'm going to do is spray it down with some carbon choke cleaner and go over it with a toothbrush. So that's going to be pretty boring to watch, so I won't film that. But this is most likely going to be a 2-part video. So we go ahead, we take our float bowl off. Okay, so as you can see, this carburetor still has the metal float, or the copper brass float. Okay, inside of the bowl isn't too bad. There is a little bit of grit in there, but not much. I'm going to clean it out anyway, so we'll set that off to the side. Okay, now on these types of carburetors, you're going to want to be careful, because right here on the hinge of your float you have a spring. Okay, when you go to remove this pin, you want to take note of that spring, so when you put this back together you can get that spring in its correct position. And also when you take this pin out, you want to hold on to that spring too, because if you don't, you're going to pull this pin out and your spring is going to go flying across your workshop or garage. And then once it does that, good luck finding it, because I've lost quite a few doing that, and they're not easy to find. So this one, if I'm not mistaken, I do believe is broken. So I don't have any needle nose pliers with me to see if I can get that out. So let me grab a pair of channel locks. Hopefully I can get it out that way. Nope. Probably should have brought some needle nose pliers with me, damn it. Okay. That pin is a little stuck in there. So, grab it with a pair of side cutters, and I'm going to pull it out that way. There it goes. Okay. So as you can see, I didn't have any needle nose pliers with me. I was able to get it out with a pair of side cutters. So that was a little rough coming out. Put that inside the float bowl. Okay, so this spring is broken, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, let's take out the float. We have our needle attached to this little tab on the float. Okay, so go ahead and take that off. That's got like some white crap all over it, some powder looking stuff. So I'll throw that inside the bowl too. The needle is going to get replaced with a new one, and then you have a seat inside here that I'll be using that tool to get out that I showed you earlier. And the inside of this carburetor here looks pretty nasty. So I don't think cleaning this up with a toothbrush is going to work. I may end up using a wire brush on it. I don't know yet. And then we'll check the float for leaks. There was no gas in this carburetor. There hasn't been gas in this carburetor for quite some time. So there's a couple different ways you can check this float. If the carburetor recently had gas in it, then you can hold the float by your ear and you can kind of just shake it. And if you hear any sloshing of fuel inside the float, then you'll know that your float has a hole and it's no good and you have to replace it. Unfortunately, they do not make these brass ones anymore, so your new replacement will be a white plastic carburetor. So that's one way to test it, or you can throw this in some water, in a bucket of water, and push it underneath the water level, and you can check to see if you see any air bubbles coming out of the float. That'll be another sign that your float has a pinhole, and again, it will have to be replaced. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead. We can take that spring out of there. Okay. And here's your, this is your bowl. It's your bowl gasket. Okay, as you can see, that thing's pretty crusty looking. So that'll be replaced. Here's that spring. Here's that spring I was telling you guys about. I don't know how well you can see that. Okay. It's pretty bent up. So, the spring on this hinge is not 100% necessary. They say it's for high vibration applications, although I have ran carburetors that are supposed to have a spring on it without the spring, and I've never had a problem. So that will be your call with your carburetor when you take it apart if you have that spring. That'll be your call whether you want to put the spring back in or not. Most kits, I think, will come with the spring anyway. So anyway, so we take this tool here, this Tecumseh carburetor tool, and what we're going to do is I'm going to take this hook right here, the hook. I'm going to go inside. I'm going to shove it in till it hooks. And there's your seat right there. I don't know how well you can see that, but there you go. That's the seat. So we take that off. It's got like a white powder all over it. So there's the seat. So that's pretty crusty and nasty looking too. And then I'll show you how to use this end to put your new seat into the carburetor. That will be on the second half of this video. Now, if your carburetor has this on it, this little scoop, this is where your TX, I think it was 25, for these screws that you're going to need to take this off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay. Okay. Well, I almost dropped it, so anyway, there's the gasket stuck on the back. I'm just going to leave that as is, because that gasket looks like it's in good condition still. So I'm going to leave that intact for now. So anyway, we pretty much have this carburetor taken apart as far as I plan on getting it. So the next step is going to be spray it down with some carbon choke cleaner. And what I'm going to do is, let me grab a toothbrush real quick. Okay, so I have a toothbrush. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start with spraying the outside of the carburetor with carbon choke cleaner, and then I will just use the toothbrush and get the outside of the carburetor, get as much of that dirt off of there as I can, get this choke lever, and the throttle mechanism. Okay, get all that grease and gunk off of there as much as I can. And then the inside here may require a wire brush. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I don't know yet, but we'll see when we get to that point. But anyway, I'm going to do the same thing. Spray it down with some carbon choke cleaner and just clean it up the best that I can. Get all this rust out of here, all this white gunk build up, whatever that crap is, I don't know. And then probably shoot some carbon choke cleaner through the inlet, make sure this is clear, and then I will spray out my float bowl. I got all my old parts in there right now. And then with this jet, I'm going to show you guys how you can clean out that jet real quick. Okay, if you have a piece of wire like this laying around, you can just very easily take a strand of this wire, and all you have to do is just run the wire through that little hole just to make sure it's clear. And another way to make sure it's clear, you can see the light through there. So this one here is clear. So I really don't need to run a wire through this one, because it's pretty much good to go. But I'll spray some carbon choke cleaner through it anyway, just to make sure, because there's like this white powder stuff built up. And then here's your gasket too, your bowl nut gasket. So anyway, that's how you would clean that. Very simple. Very simple and easy to do. So anyway, that's about it with the first part of this video. So in the second half, this carburetor will be all cleaned up. Hopefully, like I said, I can get as much of that out of there as I can. And we will be ready for part 2 of this video, which will be the reassembly of this carburetor. So anyway, if you found the first part of this video helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you like my videos. And I will see you in the second part of this carburetor rebuild video. Thank you for watching.